People listen to Cher when she talks. This time, though, she's talking about someone you may not think of. Leon Russell, the Queen of Pop. What does she have to say about one of the most important and mysterious people in rock history? The answer might shock you. You don't want to miss this talk at all. But first, let's look at Leon's early life and singing journey before we talk about what Cher thinks about it. Leon Russell, whose birth name was Claude Russell Bridges on April 2, 1942, had a hard time when he was born. John and Hester Bridges had 2 sons. One time, Claude's mother said that he didn't talk until he was very old. When he finally spoke, his first words were not hello or good morning. Instead, he asked, "What's wrong, little birdie? You scared?" All while keeping an eye on birds far away. His mother was shocked because she had never heard him talk before. But that wasn't the only thing that made Claude stand out as a child. He was born with an injury to his 2nd and 3rd vertebrae in his spine, which caused him to have a type of cerebral palsy. His right side was hurt, especially his hand, and 3 of his fingers didn't work right. He had to use his left hand a lot because of this, which changed his singing future in ways no one could have seen coming. Claude later said, "My chops have always been weak, but the accident made him come up with a completely new way to play the piano. He had to find his own way to play the music because he wasn't good at it like everyone else." Even though Claude had a lot of health problems, no one could deny that he loved music. Both of his parents played the upright piano. When he was 4, he played the church song "Trust and Obey" by ear, which amazed his mother. He soon started taking piano classes in a nearby town, even though it was almost 38 miles away. He also played other instruments, though. He quickly learned to play the trumpet, baritone horn, and alto saxophone as well. It wasn't until he was in the 5th grade that the high school band director asked him to join the parade band. It looked like music just came out of him. But not all dreams are easy to reach. As much as Claude loved classical music, he could never play it the way it was meant to be played because of the way his hands were built. He agreed that it was too hard. He didn't try to copy the traditional style. Instead, he made up his own ways to fake it, which led to the creation of something completely new. Music was a way for him to forget about how bad his body hurt. He said, "I felt like the world had cheated me," but he knew that music had helped him. If those rules hadn't been in place, he thought he might have been just another ex-football player stuck in a small town selling insurance. When Claude was a teenager, music was everything to him. The first song he made was with his friend and classmate David Gates when he was 15. The song "Joe Baby" was just the start. He had bigger plans, even though he still lived in Tulsa. His band, the Starlighters, played in local bars, and he used a fake ID to get in and play. He was known as Leon Russell, and that name stuck. During the day, he went to school, and at night, he played late shows in creepy clubs. He laughed. "I slept a lot in English, but the music made it all worth it." The road called after high school. Leon quickly forgot about college when Jerry Lee Lewis asked him to go on tour with him. He said, "I thought this was my chance to go to a lot of restaurants and see a lot of places." He could get through hard times with music, but it also let him escape. It wasn't as easy as he thought it would be when he got to Los Angeles. Less places to play because of stricter liquor rules made it hard for Leon to get by. Sometimes he didn't even eat. He hadn't imagined California as the land of possibility, but he wasn't going to give up. Instead, he worked hard at what he did, taking lessons from James Burton on the guitar and getting work as a session player. Those years in the studio changed my whole life. Jan and Dean, Ricky Nelson, George Harrison, and even Barbra Streisand were some of the big names in music that Leon played with. He became a mainstay, fitting in with the background while giving many hits his own unique sound. Leon knew even back then that he wasn't meant to stay hidden forever. He could use more than one sound. He played any kind of music that made him feel good, like rock, blues, church, or bluegrass. His songs had a depth that not many others could match because of the pain in his life. Everything that was hard for him, he turned into a song. Then, in March 1970, things went badly for Joe Cocker. U.S. Customs told him he had to do something or be sent back to his home country. Some say the real reason for the Rush tour was even worse. He was threatened with physical harm if he didn't go along with it. Cocker was in a tough spot, so he asked Leon Russell to help him put together a band for a 48-day tour. They only had a week to get ready. It was almost impossible to do. Leon Russell was left scrambling to find players and practice with them very quickly. Mad Dogs and Englishmen, a crazy mix of songs that would become a landmark in rock history, was the result. Russell was told to put together a 10-piece band and a 10-person cover choir called the Space Choir. Russell took charge in the middle of all the chaos. Joe Cocker wasn't ready to lead because he was high on drugs. Russell asked Cocker if the music sounded good, and he just said, "It never sounds right to me." Russell didn't know what to say, so he chose to do something about it himself. He told himself, "I'll do whatever I want." Indeed, that's what he did. Russell put together an electric tour with players from Delaney and Bonnie Bramlett's band. The tour was raw and full of energy. Singer Claudia Linier on the tour talked about how Russell had a unique talent. He could mix black gospel with white gospel to make something completely new. When Elton John watched the live film for Mad Dogs and Englishmen, he saw something that other people might not have. Joe was an amazing singer, but it was Leon's band, he told me. It was clear that Russell had power over the music. Wearing a top hat and a basketball shirt from a thrift store, he looked like he was from another world. It was clear that he knew how to put on a show. "I play roles," he said. "I was just trying to make a show." Russell was working behind the scenes on his 1970 solo record, Leon Russell, while all of this was going on stage. A lot of big stars in music, like Bob Dylan, Eric Clapton, George Harrison, and Mick Jagger, worked together on the album. A Song for You and Delta Lady were two songs on it that would become timeless hits. Not only were these songs music, they were statements set to music. It only took Russell 10 minutes to write A Song for You. It came straight from his heart. As he watched it move, he said, "It felt like it came from somewhere else." Over 40 acts, such as Ray Charles and the Carpenters, would go on to cover the song. In 1994, Ray Charles won a Grammy for his version of the song. The song was no longer just Russell's. It had become its own thing. Jones, on the other hand, brought Delta Lady to life for the first time during the Mad Dogs and Englishmen tour. Love and desire were at the heart of the song. Cocker changed some of the words, but Russell's soul was still there. A lot of people felt hurt when they heard that hit song. Russell was all over the place in the 1970s. On Dave Mason's song, Alone Together, he played the piano. His first big hit was The Letter, which was sung by Joe Cocker. It was the same year that Russell played at the Fillmore East with Elton John. Russell was no longer just a sidekick. He was turning into a star in his own right. Like the man himself, his performances were unplanned, raw, and honest. Leon Russell felt like he was in the spotlight when George Harrison asked him to play at the concert for Bangladesh. The catch is that he wasn't just playing the piano. He was also playing bass, singing harmony, and jamming with greats like Harrison and Dylan. In 1973, the benefit album from the show won the Grammy Award for Album of the Year. This made Russell a rock star in his own right. Leon's 1970s were a blur. He was busy with shows, studio sessions, and working with other artists. Leon Russell and the Shelter People was his first gold record, and he worked with jazz great Freddie King. Also, let's not forget Hank Wilson, his country double. So he went into country music under that name and put out Hank Wilson's Back Volume 1, which was a big hit. He had a little success with the song Roll in My Sweet Baby's Arms. It was a fun break in his otherwise very busy career. Russell wasn't just making songs, though. He was also making his business grow. He bought a lot of land in Oklahoma, including the famous Church Studio, where he recorded with big names like Eric Clapton and Willie Nelson. That's how you mix work and pleasure. But first, let's talk about Russell's terrible documentary, A Poem is a Naked Person. He was so sure of it that he kept it hidden for 40 years. He changed his mind in the end and let it be seen by everyone. Leon also has a country character called Hank Wilson. On a road trip, he got hooked on truck stop tapes, which led to this fun piece of country music. It began as a fun side project, but grew into something much bigger. Hank Wilson's album, Hank Wilson's Back Volume 1, was a hit in 1973, and the song Roll in My Sweet Baby's Arms did pretty well too. From all the serious things he had done in his work, it was a nice break. And don't think that was the end of his impact. Russell was a big part of making the Lynn drum machine and helped the Gap Band find their groove. Not only did his innovative ideas about rhythm and time shape his music, They also changed the way music was made, always trying new things and thinking outside the box. Leon's journey had some ups and downs by the 1980s. He collaborated with Aretha Franklin on the "We Belong Together" commercial for ABC. The song they made was a good fit for how TV was changing at the time. Even though he was on TV, his true love was still singing live. His band, Newgrass Revival, played on the road. They were a great mix of country and rock. This song was a great fit for Leon's style, which was always changing. He showed that he could make music his own, no matter the age. Leon Russell played for 25,000 people at Joel's third annual Tornado Jam in Texas in 1982 and blew them away. Russell played like there was no tomorrow, even when famous bands like Joan Jett and the Crickets were on stage at the same time. The stage? It didn't matter. He put everything he had into it. That was only Leon, no holds barred. He stuck to his skill and kept making music even though the music business was changing. By 1984, Leon was back to being his countryside, combining cowboy sounds with his piano magic to make music that was a mix of country, gospel, and blues. This man was like a chameleon when it came to music. He was always changing styles and never missed a beat. Russell was back on the road by 1985. His soul was a little tired, but he was always moving forward. He wasn't slowing down, and his music was always full of energy, whether he was playing with Edgar Winter in the late 1980s or by himself. That powerful pair? It was pure magic how well the raw rock and deep grooves went together. When the 1990s came around, Leon kind of slowed down. Even though he stayed out of the press, he worked on his old stuff again, giving things that people already liked new depth. For him, fame wasn't important. The music spoke for itself. He thought about things more deeply in the mid-1990s and even started his own record label. But where does the message come from? Still there, even as he tried out new sounds. Leon Russell wasn't quite the big star he used to be by the 2000s, but his music never lost its appeal for his die-hard fans. He performed with the same fire in his belly, whether it was a huge event or a small cozy club. He wasn't after fame anymore, he was after music, and it showed. His health got worse over time, and in the 2010s, Russell's work went in a strange direction. His music still spoke loudly, though, no matter where he went. In the later years of Leon Russell's career, Elton John called out to work with him because he had opened for him before. As a result, Russell's record, The Union, which came out in 2010, became a source of hope in his later years. Even though Leon was sick, he put everything he had into the project, and it became his 6th gold record. Leon had music in his heart no matter what, but as his health got worse, the stage felt heavy and the piano keys were a little harder to press. Leon wasn't going to let that slow him down, though. Even though he had surgery and was having heart failure, he kept performing, no matter how painful it was. He was set on going until November 13, 2016, when the music stopped. In an interview with the Wrecking Crew after the meeting, Cher finally tells them what happened with Leon. She thought of him as a quiet person who would just walk in and sit down at the piano. Not a lot of noise or fuss. But one day things went a little off-center. Leon showed up to the studio totally drunk. So drunk, Cher said. After that, something amazing took place. Leon began to talk after sitting down at the piano. This was huge. Leon, are you talking? Cher said that everyone looked at each other and asked, "Did you see that? Does this really happen?" The sight made everyone laugh, but once the lesson began, things became more serious. Philip, who was leading the class, wouldn't have any of it. He looked at Leon and then asked, "Ever heard the word respect?" It got even better after that. Leon jumped on the piano and yelled, "Have you ever heard the word?" He was still drunk. Boom. The room went crazy. People laughed so hard they were crying on the floor. The two of them couldn't get back together for 30 minutes. Cher couldn't help but laugh because she thought the whole thing was so funny. But it turned out that Leon Russell was more than just funny. Blondie player Lou McCreary remembers a whole different side of him. Leon Russell, a country boy from Oklahoma, left everything behind and came to Hollywood with just a dream. He stayed at a rundown motel on Sunset Boulevard, didn't have a phone, and just hung out at the studios trying to get a job. Lou from the Wrecking Crew would tell him, "Leon, If you want to work in this town, you need a phone. Leon would just laugh, shake his head, and keep being Leon, the real deal, country style. Tommy Tedesco, the great guitarist for the Wrecking Crew, remembers when Leon was asked to work with Glenn Campbell. Leon was scared and didn't feel like he belonged. Glenn, being the cool guy that he is, told Leon, "Play that stuff you did back in Oklahoma." "These people don't know any better," Leon said. Leon did his own thing, and boom! At that point, everyone knew Leon had a unique style. That was his vibe after that, and it stuck. The drummer Hal Blaine loved Leon's piano magic. Hal said, "He had this simple Southern style that was beautiful." Leon didn't have to say much. His hands spoke for him, and trust me, they spoke a lot. Another person who couldn't help but love Leon was Larry Levine. He thought back to a time when Leon was playing the electric piano with Al Diore. Leon then played an acoustic guitar, and Larry asked, "Wow, how does he reach all those octaves?" Leon could play the piano in ways that no one else could even imagine. It was like the piano was a part of him. The best part? Julius Retcher told this funny story about an 80-piece orchestra that was waiting for Leon. The time was running out, everyone was stressed, and there was a surprise. Leon was late. When the door finally creaked open, he walked in, still moving slowly. He got ready to rock when he sat down at the piano. Before he could begin, Ben Barrett's voice rang out, "Leon, don't be late again." Leon didn't say anything. He just quietly shut down the piano, got up, and limped back out. It was typical Leon. No show, no thank you. Everyone in Leon's band was always praising him, and it's possible that the world will never see another person like him. But who knows? Maybe one day, a new Leon Russell will take the stage and carry on his famous spirit.